Hi everyone, my name is Gray from THICCLY, and today we're going to talk about the new GrowLid Hydroponics GrowPole system. So what it does is that it's a hydroponic way to actually grow plants on our GrowPole system that has been tried and tested since 2021. And this is a Florida beauty. We started off with 3 leaves 2.5 months ago, and you can see that it's growing really very lush right now. So I'm going to show you how we actually did this from propagation onwards. So over here, we actually have a monstera aurea. We cut it off yesterday, we let it callus over. Unfortunately, Singapore's weather really changes a lot. So it actually got a little bit of sunburn. It has a few roots that had its tips burnt. Oh, that's my cat over there. So what we want to do is to actually remove as many of the leaves as possible. So with the leaves looking so good, I'm really very reluctant to do it. We've already cut off one of the leaves earlier while we were actually preparing this plant for propagation. And over here, what we want to make sure to do is that if you have any kind of dead root, even if it's the root tip, we want to really trim it off. That's going to reduce the chances of having root rot when we are doing it with this method. So over here, we have a root that's already broken. We want to just snip that off, and that's really going to help the plant in its propagation journey. So over here, we have the GrowLid, which is our new product. This is an area for us to actually put the plant and the propagation in, and the roots is going to grow into this area down into the reservoir in a Kratky system. So over here we have a hole where we can actually put the GrowPole in, and let's get it started. So we have over here a few of the sponges that we have custom made for this system. We're going to be launching these on Kickstarter shortly, so be sure to actually join our mailing list so you don't miss out on our early bird rewards. So what we want to do is to actually prepare our hydroponic solution. These are the samples that we have made. We've been testing it. It's what this plant is growing on, and it's doing really well. So what we want to do is to actually put 1 gram of part A and 1 gram of part B into this solution. So it's very important for us to actually have the water ready first before we actually add this hydroponics nutrient. The reason is that actually the part A and the part B will mix with each other. Is going to precipitate out the calcium if we use too little water and the concentration is too high. So without further ado, I'm going to just zero my scale. I'm just gonna add in 1 gram of part A. Okay, that's 1 gram. Just missed the shot a little bit. It's 1.2 grams. It's not going to affect too much. I think the range of tolerance for hydroponics is a bit larger than people expect. If we added 1.2 grams of part A, what we want to do is really to add 1.2 grams of part B. So let me just get this out. Okay, that's 1.2 grams. Yeah, that's another 1.2 grams. So what you want to do now is to really stir it in. Make sure it's properly dissolved so that there isn't a very concentrated spot where the two part components actually meet with each other and precipitate out the calcium, which is going to be detrimental to our plants. Because a lot of our plants actually require this calcium to form strong plant walls. And that's going to be a very important part of using hydroponic solution to grow. Okay, so now that this is prepared, what I'm going to do is to basically put the 2 sponges in, let them soak up the hydroponic solution. And over here, we have the plant. We have this glass pot from IKEA. It's called Grudvis. And we are going to basically put the plant onto this entire system. So you can see the roots are facing forward, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I think we can still make this work. This is a Gen 3 GrowPole. What we can do is we can actually unclip one of the clips. Okay. Another way we can do it is to secure it with tape, but I prefer to use clips where I can. Okay. So you unclip one of the clips, use it to basically hold the plant in position. And what's important is that the roots need to reach the bottom of the net pot area. So this is really important because you want the root to be in contact with the water, especially when we are starting to propagate it. And that's really going to help the roots to grow. So once we have done this, let's take out the sponge. You can see it's nice and expanded. What we can do now is we can put this into the grow pole. Okay, just like that. Sometimes I like to do it before putting the plant. Sometimes I put it in after, it doesn't really matter. So the important thing is that this sponge actually goes to the bottom of the pole. Okay. It's a little bit tight because this area is a little bit big for propagation, but we'll make it work. Okay. So what this does is it reaches into the reservoir part, the hydroponic solution, and is going to absorb it from the bottom. So over here we can see that we can put it even lower. So what it does is that it's going to absorb water from the bottom. It's going to release it in the form of water vapor inside the grow pole. And now we add the substrate. Before that, we can actually add lava rocks, volcanic rocks inside the netted pot area. And with the grow lid, you only need a small quantity of substrate compared to traditional pots. Okay, just like so. We like to use a lava rock for this purpose because it's heavy and it's porous, so it's going to weigh down the entire lid, prevent it from toppling. And at the same time, because it's very porous, it's going to let beneficial bacteria grow inside, and that prevents root rot. This plant is massive. Okay, so what we want to do now is to fill the rest of the moss pole. We are using cocoa chips. Depending on the location you are in, if you are in a much drier climate, you can try using sphagnum moss. What we want to be sure is that the substrate doesn't stay waterlogged. So what happened, we can show you an image later. Basically, the water is supposed to condense into small spots inside the grow pole on the substrate. And that is a very aerated way to actually hydrate the moss pole. So what we don't want to do is to have a situation where it's waterlogged, because once it stays wet without drying or without airflow, that's when you actually get an anaerobic condition and you get root rot. Okay. So we are about 3/4 of the way, halfway up the moss pole. You just squeeze it a little bit, make sure it falls to a lower level. And what we can do now is to take the other sponge and place it on top of the grow pole. Okay, so now that this is done, we have basically propagated this monstera aurea, and you don't even need to do that much for the plant anymore. All we need to do now is to fill it up with the hydroponic solution. So the sponge on top slows down the flow of the water and allows the substrate to absorb the water much better than if you were to pour it directly without the sponge. And at the same time, because it caps off the top of the grow pole, it really keeps the moisture in the grow pole, allowing it to condense onto the substrate in a way that the plant can actually make use of. So some of our supporters actually asked us whether we are going to put a water level on the grow lid. So we considered doing that. We might add it, we are not sure. But one of the ways to avoid having so many gadgets and losing that very minimalist look that we traditionally always had is to use a clear pot. So a clear pot allows you to see the water level. And what we want to do is to really fill it up all the way to the top. So long as the base of the pot is touching water, especially when you start the propagation off, it's going to really help to keep the net pot area hydrated, and that's going to help roots form. So once the root is established and you see the roots growing down into the bottom, you can leave about an inch of air gap from the base of the pot to the water surface, and that allows air exchange directly to the plants through the aerial roots, and that really helps the plant to take off and really grow much faster, much healthier without the risk of root rot. Let me show you what it's like inside our GrowLid system for established plant. So this is the philodendron Florida Beauty. We've grown this for quite a while, about 2.5, 3 months. You see the sheer amount of roots that is growing inside here, and that's what's keeping the plant growing very robustly this entire time. So if you notice, this actually gets a little bit of algae. What you can do every few months, you can actually swap it out into a solid container like this one, IKEA Nippon. Just put it in and grow it in a opaque pot for the 1 month. What you will notice is that when you take it out, the roots are completely white again. It's not going to have that algae. And when you are actually displaying it, you can put it back into this guy. So over here we have also anthurium. I believe this is a forgetii that's just placed into the GrowLid system. So you can see here the roots, it's not growing yet, but it's healthy and it's white, and that's how we know that the plant is actually doing very well. Okay, so over here we have another plant. We've not shown this before. So this is a variegated billy. If you've seen our video a few months ago, quite a few months ago actually, we actually propagated this where we were still growing it in a grow plot. And billies are really slow growing plants, but ever since we put it into this system, it's already thrown out 3 leaves. And how many leaves are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So half of this plant grew in 3 months. It was a really long period before we actually put it into this, and this plant is really starting to take off right now. So as you can see, we just washed and emptied this as part of maintenance because of the algae. You can put it into a opaque pot, you can wash it off. We've decided to wash it off for this time. So all we need to do now is to really just top it up. Oops. Might want to be focusing on what we are doing instead of filming when we are topping it up. But generally, it's not going to be an issue. See, the hydroponic solution just flows into this reservoir. Looks really good and really fuss-free to maintain. This is the first time we've cleaned the algae off of this plant in the 2.5 months that it was on this system. And you can tell from the latest leaf that it's really doing very well. So if you notice, there is actually a burnt spot on the leaf over here. The burnt spot is caused by recently we have a bunch of heat waves coming in. Right now it's threatening the rain. This morning it was maybe about 31, 32 degrees Celsius. And one of the things that we always tell our supporters is, if you are growing anything outdoors, which we were, then you don't want to use black color. The black rim of this really got very hot, and you can see it almost exactly matches the burnt spot on this particular leaf, which is a pity, but given how well this is growing, I'm not gonna miss that way too much. But I'm just gonna leave it on so it provides nutrients to the plant, it doesn't stress the plant out, and it's just going to be growing so well. Thank you for sitting through our reporting session with the whole new GrowLid system, and we look forward to seeing you at the Kickstarter campaign. Grow thickly always.